Good morning, my friends. This is Paul, and welcome to episode 9 of ISTJ info dumping. This time, I thought a better formula is that I'm going to talk about an experience where ISTJs, or at least me, would be most in our element based on our function stack, and how it personally feels. Because I just got a comment today, or rather yesterday, considering the time zone, of how she really appreciated that I was talking about the inner workings of an ISTJ's mind, as opposed to just rattling off facts about us. So I'm going to talk about an experience that I went through, and I'll try to explain to the best of my ability how it relates to the function stack, how we're different from the other types, and how they might handle it. And just saying, in general, this is how I believe most ISTJs are going to behave if they're confronted with a similar situation. So today, I'm going to talk about chaperoning. Now, there might not be a whole lot of Catholic ISTJs on YouTube. In fact, if there are any at all, I'm going to be shocked. So I'm going to talk about chaperoning Catholic conferences, but I'm sure this could apply to, say, chaperoning homecoming, chaperoning a dance, chaperoning two middle schoolers going on a date. Oh, I sure hope that doesn't happen. And hopefully you'll get some insight on so that's what their ulterior motivation was. They weren't trying to ruin the conference for me. Don't worry, the ESTJs will do that for you. Kidding, kidding, kidding. They have a different way of operating. I just gotta get used to their inferior feeling. Okay, so, for starters, I'm going to talk about the mission trip, because I think that's got the most instances of where the tertiary feeling is more apparent, and also the dominant introverted sensing. The dominant function is used to deal with facts, information, but it also deals with personal comfortability in the real world. So say we had a really good mission trip one year, and the year after that wasn't as good, then we're going to take those past two experiences and sort in our head which one was the optimal mission trip experience. And then we'll hopefully try to convey that to the teenagers so that they can have an optimal first and current mission trip. So, first off, I'm going to refrain from all the preparation that goes into the mission trips, because in my original take of this video, that took like a good 6-7 minutes of the take, and I don't want to rattle on for that long without something of substance. So, let's assume we're already at the camp. Talking about Catholic Artwork Camp here. You guys saw my vlogs about it. Now I'm going to talk more about, in general, how I felt as a chaperone, as opposed to what I was personally feeling from, say, the theming. So first we have to make sure that the teenagers are all, within eyesight. We know where all of them are. We know, okay, John is carrying the food tray. Amelia is getting the sleeping bags out of the trunk. I am signing my group in at the front desk. Something like that. So after the staff gets the group picture and gets a video of us doing whatever crazy thing it is that they want, sorry for the microphone bump, we go and we set up the rooms. Then we are asked to be in the program area by, I believe it's 3 o'clock p.m. sharp. So while most people might not like ISTJs to be legalistic, it's in the rules to be legalistic. It literally says sharp, and even once we're in there and it's like counting down the time, it'll have a 10, 9, 8, you get the picture, type of way of saying, okay, it is exactly time for us to start. And ISTJs like me couldn't be happier. We love punctuality. We love how they give us this giant schedule, and it says 6:30 breakfast, 7:30 mass, 8:30 go to work. General guidelines like that. But we also love how prior to the trip we have a whole bunch of rules and regulations and protecting God's children and all that to keep track of, so that we know exactly what it is to expect, say, do, don't do, etc. You're going to drive me crazy one of these days, microphone. So, one thing that can be a little bit frustrating about ISTJs as chaperones at first is that because they're so determined to follow the rules, and if they're put in a chaperoning position, they're put in a position of authority, they're generally going to be very unbendable and rigid. Generally speaking, bargaining with an ISTJ just does not work. I don't know if this was the right thing or not, but there was one time where we were told, okay, chaperones, tell your teenagers that the lights are supposed to be out by 11 o'clock. So, I told them at about 10, I said, okay, you're supposed to be getting ready for bed by 10:30. You have to get out of the cafeteria, and you have to be in the boys only. In the case of the girls, I leave that to the female chaperones. But I basically say to the guys, I say, okay, get in the guys only area. And I want you to start brushing your teeth, doing whatever it is you need to do, prepare your sleeping bags, inflate your air mattresses, all that. Personally, I'm a low maintenance guy, so I just use a sleeping bag, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about how to handle the rules. Then, I get next to the light switch, because no one else seems to want to do it, and I say, alright, at exactly 11 o'clock, this light switch is turning out. If you have not brushed your teeth, too bad. You're supposed to be in bed by 11. And I try not to say it super mean, but sometimes if the teenagers are being rebellious or overly hyper, I'll say, I told you you were supposed to be in bed by 11. Why is it that you didn't listen? You should not be like this. You need to get up early in the morning. And if they complain too much, then I'll try to take them aside and say it nicer. But for the most part, the anger doesn't come so much from just, oh, you ISTJs are mean because you're thinkers. It's more so of the fact that they're not taking into account why the rules are there. There's a reason why they need to get to sleep at a certain time, because the body needs a certain amount of sleep to be ready for the project. They're on a mission trip. They're here to work. So I say, all right, guys, if you don't get enough sleep, then you are not going to have energy for the project. That's going to disappoint the residents. You paid $300 for this, so that would be a waste of your money, or whoever paid for you. And not only that, but you are being provided meals, you're being provided lodging, and whether you like it or not, you're being given service and you're doing service. You're going to need your sleep so that you're able to fully enjoy the experience that you paid for. It may come across as strict at first, but that's only if the teens keep pressuring me. I like to imply a 3-strike rule. The first time, I say, alright, you guys need to start cleaning up this room because it is a mess and you were told not to bring in candy wrappers. The second time, I say it a little bit more forceful. I say, alright, guys, enough bickering. Take that candy bar, put it in the trash bag. You guys have eyes, you can see that. And if they mess up a third time, that's when, I guess, ISTJ mode takes over. And I say, alright, you, get that candy bar, put it in the trash can, now. If you don't, then I am going to take your sleeping bag, and I'm going to take your book, and I'm going to take your phone, and I'm not going to give it back until you do what I say. Because you are not acting in proper conduct. And I really don't like doing that. I don't revel in being mean or forceful. In fact, that's the kind of situation I want to avoid like the plague. The ideal chaperoning experience. If I had to pick Paul, you can pick a dream mission trip. It would go something like this. We get to the camp, and I say, alright, teens, half of you go and take the snacks into the cafeteria. And I will go with the other half, and we will unload the sleeping bags into the classrooms. And we do. And I say, alright guys, you got until 3 o'clock to go to the program areas. They all say yes. We get to the program areas, get our seats, hopefully in the front row. Then we're told, okay, you are going to your assignments. Now I know Catholic Heart Work Camp has a problem with not telling us exactly what we're doing until the day before, so that's just something I'm going to have to get used to. That's where the inferior extroverted intuition starts getting into panic mode, because we're like, okay, I really hope I don't get this kind of job, because I'm terrible at plumbing, I really don't know what I'm doing. And then, on the camps when I actually did get the job that I wanted, that's when there would be another form of overexcitement, because I would be thinking about all the times I panicked and then wondering if what I saw was a joke or not. Like the most recent mission trip I went on, it said Paul, associate staff member, and I had to do a double take, being like, okay, are my eyes going bad? Am I accidentally misreading someone else's name? You sure that's Paul? Censored last name because don't want to give too much personal information. Are you sure my name is on there? Yeah, we do a double take because yes, we like to trust the facts, but we want to make sure we got them correct. We don't want to say, hey, guess what? I'm supposed to be in this kitchen. They're like, no, you aren't. And then we're like, shoot. Okay, sorry. Major embarrassment there. Well, actually, that was my dream mission trip, was being an associate staff. But I did a whole vlog series on this. Let's pretend that I got to be with the perfect group of teenagers. I'd go up to them and I'd say, hi guys, my name is Paul, I'm years old, and I am going to be your team builder for the week of Catholic Art Work Camp. Could everyone please say their name? Do not say anything to do with school because I was homeschooled, and tell me why you are here at Catholic Art Work Camp. And then all of the teens answer in single file order. The reason we like order is because if it's all chaotic, then it makes it hard to feel like it's a team and more of a one-man or one-woman dominance. That's the kind of situation we don't want. In fact, we're actually told at the planning meeting, do not come across as a dictator and make sure everyone has a chance to have a role on the team. So for me, it's very important for all the teenagers to have their say. Of course, I have to have my say too. So I need to make sure that every teenager is okay with the roles that they're assigned, because each of them get different things that they have to do as a member of the team. And then make sure that the instructions are very clear. They say, okay, this is exactly what you're doing. This is the residence number. This is the camp's number. You can call us if you have any questions. Then we get on to our activities, in which case I don't really need to enforce the rules. The staff member does it for us. And the teenagers are laughing and smiling, and we're doing all these fun activities together. And they're just like, hey, Paul, you want to play Frisbee? I'll say, sure. I may not be very good at it, but I'll do it with you. And just laughing and smiling and saying, well done. Making up a name off the top. Florina. Well done, Florina. I wish I could meet a girl named Florina. She was a terrible unit in Fire Emblem, but it's a cool name. And be very encouraging. Say, wow, that was a great Jenga tower that you built. Whoa, Timmy, you are incredible at 2 truths and a lie. And then we say goodbye. We go to sleep. And during dinner time, 2 teenagers come up to me and they say, hey, Paul, it's my first time at a mission trip. Would you care to fill me in on everything I need to know? So then I say, all right. So this is what to expect on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And I'll be here to answer any faith questions you have. And then they overload me with tons and tons and tons of apologetics questions and say, Paul, we would like it if you could give us a reason for why is it that God wants us to go to Mass on Sundays? Like, why is that a big deal? Does it say anything in the Bible about that? Well, I'm glad you asked, because... So then we develop sort of a teacher-type temporary relationship. I don't want to say full-time, because it's only a temporary... Never mind. Trying my best not to step on any legal toes here. Then, first day at work, the teenagers all say, good morning, Paul. I say, all right, everyone. Hope you all know where the bus is. Hope you all know what you're doing. If you know how to paint better than I do, cool. Then we get to the job. And I say, all right, does anyone here not know how to pull weeds? 2 of the girls raise their hand. I say, okay, here is how you pull a weed. Because, believe it or not, I actually had some teenagers that did not know what they were doing when they were pulling a weed. And I actually had to teach them the proper way to do it. So, maybe their parents didn't make them do all that gardening, or maybe they were in an area that didn't have a lot of gardening. I don't know. Regardless, I taught them how to pull a weed. I did all the electric work, so like sawing the board, mowing the lawn, that was all my doing because minors aren't allowed to use electrical tools. And I would say, okay, John, you are much better at cleaning out gutters than I am, as a rhetorical example. Do you think you could take care of that? Sure, Paul, no problem. Hey, Paul, yes, Brittany. So, I was supposed to take this bag of wood chips into the shed, but it's too heavy for me. Do you think you could help me pick it up? Sure, no problem. Let's do this together. Alright, behind you. Good. Alright, set it down. Good job. Very good. Okay, when would you guys like to eat lunch? So see, there's a lot of questioning. We're told not to be a dictator. And so the only thing we do is just make sure the teenagers know what they're doing. So that's why instead of saying, John, why are you painting in circles instead of painting in a W formation like you heard in the program, I'll say, John, would you rather do something else besides painting, or do you think you're okay in here? And then if John says, no, I want to paint, I'll be like, okay, do you remember what was told to you at the program this morning? Yes, Paul, I remember. All right, well, show me. Look, I got to make sure you're doing this right. John shows me. I say, okay, cool. Keep up the good work. I'm going to go check on these guys over here. You call me if you need anything, okay? The whole, like, shouting at people, being dogmatic and dictatory, I don't like that. I would like it if the teenagers knew the proper rules of conduct, if they knew what they were paying for, what they were getting into. And, I don't know, they wouldn't have to be perfect. I mean, they're teenagers. I'm an adult. There's a lot of emotional maturity differences. Maybe they want to laugh really loud in the cafeteria, and all I want is some peace and quiet. I'd have to be like, well, that's technically not against the rules, so whatever. I'll just go and sit under a tree or something. And then two girls come up and they say, Paul, we see that you're sitting under a tree. We were wondering if you liked Zelda. Well, as a matter of fact, I love Zelda. Usually I wear t-shirts like this to start conversations, and it usually works. So then we talk about something casual. And then through that casual conversation, it turns into a conversation about the faith. Like they might say, well, you know what, Paul? I'm glad that you mentioned the example about Zelda and Skyward Sword, because based on this factor that happens in the second half of the game, it's given us a deeper appreciation of Jesus' sacrifice on the cross. And I'll say, well, video games are like modern-day parables, so I'm really glad that you agree with me. And then they say, oh, Paul, can we keep in touch? I'll say, well, it has to be in a limited capacity because there are certain parameters, so go to this public YouTube forums that someone can call me out if I do something inappropriate. And basically, they know their conduct, they know their rules, they may not be perfect, but at least they're willing to accept correction. They do everything on time, or at least if they don't do it on time, they have a good excuse. Like they might say, true story actually, generally speaking, if I'm in a situation that I'm unfamiliar with, I'm not the one that's just going to pull an answer out of my head. I'm going to say, okay, you just broke your foot. I want you to lean on my shoulder. I'm going to take you to, I'm going to get someone to help you. I want you to lay down on this bench, make sure you're comfortable. I'm going to go get someone who does know what they're doing. I don't want to pretend that I have all the answers all settled. I want to make sure that whoever is the most qualified and capable gets the teen the help that they need. And if that person is, well, me, then sure, I'll step up. If the teenager is, say, struggling with moderation, with drinking, I'll be like, ooh, you've come to just the right person. Let me teach you how I handle having perpetual thirst. At Four Corners, which is an activity that involves praying over the teenagers and letting them know that they're in an area where they can feel supported, and loved, and cherished. That works really well to my introverted sensing and introverted feeling. Specifically, introverted feeling being tertiary. Because the introverted sensing is, of course, remembering all the rules of like, okay, the teenagers are not going to come to you for counseling advice. They're going to come to you for spiritual guidance or for just feeling safe. Maybe they don't want to talk to you at all. Maybe they just want to cry. And they also say, like, feel free to give the teenager a hug that's appropriate, and feel free to tell them about your own experience if you have suffered this before. So if a teenager comes up to me and says, Paul, my grandpa just died, I'll be like, oh, yeah, both my grandparents died too. You want some tips on how I coped with it? And then I keep them general. I don't want to overwhelm them with information because, they're upset. They might not be able to handle it all at once. But for the most part, what I love about Four Corners is just being able to recite a fact that comes across as emotional support. And I think that's the optimal way for an ISTJ to develop their introverted feeling, is if the teenager asks them for a factual opinion. Like if they say, Paul, another semi-true story. I'm leaving out a few of the details to preserve the girl's privacy, but I had a conversation in the reconciliation line where a girl asked me, Paul, do you think it's possible for someone who is LGBT to find love in the Catholic Church? And I said, yeah, I do. I really do think it's possible. And she was like, no, don't be saying that just to make me feel better. I said, I'm not. You see, God created each and every one of us a son and a daughter of his. And he's going to make sure that if you trust him and you say yes, he's going to give you the man or the woman that you need. And to just say that God will just slap them in the face and say, get lost, that's just blatantly against Catholic teaching. And I'm not supposed to tell a lie. That was an example of where that was emotional support, but it was also factual. That was quoting the catechism, saying, yes, it is possible for people that have homosexual, bisexual, any kind of sexual tendencies to still be loved and cherished. So, as a result, to sort of summarize this, because I feel like this might be getting a little bit too long, ISTJs as chaperones will not enforce the rules unless they're given the authority. They will not enforce something that they don't already know. They will panic if they are put into a situation that they were not told about ahead of time. But they're likely to be more calm about it if there's someone else with them who knows what they're doing more than they do. And they will defer to that person's judgment with an almost religious adherence. And if an ISTJ is too forceful at first, they will definitely soften their tone of voice over time if they see that it's not an effective measure. I don't remember if I did this in this take or not. I apologize if this is repetitious information, but perhaps it'll, drill it into your head or something. I've had teenagers complain to me that my very first mission trip, I would turn on the lights too early in the morning and would turn them on too suddenly. Nowadays, I learned, okay, that's not going to help the teenagers wake up on time. But they still have to wake up at a certain time because we have to go to Mass. So what would be the ideal way of doing this? So then, I say, alright teenagers, it's time to wake up. So I'm going to turn on the lights in 20 seconds. So I need you to start opening your eyes, unfolding your sleeping bag, because in 20 seconds I'm going to need to turn on the lights, okay? I'm really sorry about this, but this needs to be done. Then I do it, and most of the time that has proved vastly superior results, to the point where, another true story, a teenager has actually gone up to me and said, you know what, Paul, ever since you guys had to switch hallways, we really miss how you would turn out the lights. To which I said, I didn't think anyone would ever miss how I turned off the lights, because I'm often way too strict with that. And that's all I'm going to say for now, because this video is over 25 minutes, and I'm cringing at that. But just keep in mind that ISTJs don't like being mean as chaperones. They like being supportive, but they also don't like going against the rules or against the facts. So, they're ideally, to make them totally healthy and not be so, abysmally in your face or mean to the more sensitive feeling types. They should know the rules ahead of time, and they should know general guidelines for how to act if they're in an unfamiliar situation. Their extroverted thinking means that they're going to be very good at enforcing those rules and developing a plan of action to get things done. They're going to think things through, and they're going to say, okay, there is no one here to solve this crisis. What would be the most practical thing to do with what we have around us? Then, with our introverted feeling, we say, okay, we have been in this situation before. This is my 6th mission trip. So, how would I have responded to this? Or how could I respond differently based on how I felt before? In addition, saying, okay, this teenager is upset. Is there anything I can draw from in my own past in which I was upset like this that might help them proceed? And our extroverted intuition. We need to prepare for the unknown. A healthy ISTJ needs to accept that there are going to be situations out of their control, and it's okay to go with the flow and have things happen that are not necessarily going to be in the book. Ideally, an ISTJ with developed extroverted intuition at a chaperoning trip is going to be okay with getting out of their comfort zone. Like, say, going on the stage and acting like a fool, which most ISTJs don't like doing. They don't like being the center of attention. But maybe a teenager really needed that laugh. Maybe that starts a faith conversation. Maybe a teenager saying, Paul, that was amazing lip syncing. I'll be like, yeah. Or, no, other way around. Another true story. Teenager said to me, Paul, that was great singing on the stage. To which I said, I wasn't singing. I was lip syncing. To which they would say, whoa, you were only lip syncing? This part I'm making up. But this is also sort of a true story. I would also say, well, I mean, I can do voice imitations too. They're like, you can do voice imitations? Tell me. So then I do voice imitations. And that says, what else can you do? And I'll say, well, I have a YouTube channel. They're like, what's on your YouTube channel? I'll say, well, I talk about the Catholic faith. And then I talk about other mission trips. And they'll say, ooh, you've been on other mission trips? Tell us. And it's the ripple effect that extroverted intuition thrives on, that keeps going off on tons and tons and tons of tangents, that leads to an ultimate goal of these teenagers got closer to God, which was the point of going on this mission trip in the first place. That was the number one rule that needed to be followed. And for that, that's why I love going on these trips. I love being with teenagers, especially high schoolers, because I feel like most people think I'm one of them anyway. And even though I don't particularly enjoy that, I feel like at times it could also be used to my benefit. Because then I could say, yeah, when I was your age, I had that problem too. Here's how I overcame it. Maybe you can overcome it earlier than me, and then you can have a happier, older life than I did. And then they end up living the rest of their lives in more harmony, ideally. Some teenagers don't. Some teenagers decide that they're going to be atheists after the mission trip. And I need to learn not to blame myself. So a healthy ISTJ will not get into the grip of their inferior feeling, or their inferior intuition and tertiary feeling, and not say, it was completely my fault that they became atheist. I wasn't a good enough apologist. I didn't present the facts of the Catholic faith enough. I should have given them 5 minutes instead of 2 in the cafeteria. We just have to do what we're told and hope that God does the rest. Anyway, I hope this wasn't too long for you. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns, what you want the next info dumping episode to be. And until the next time, keep the faith, stay epic, God bless, and thank goodness this was just under 30 minutes. Bye.